Alright, so we're going to take a really quick look at graphing a logarithmic function. There's a couple ways to graph a logarithmic function. One of the ways that I find helps me the most and is probably related back to this inverse stuff that we've been talking about in some of the other videos the most is to actually look at this and say, okay, this is a logarithm base 3. So if I were to take y equals 3 to the x power and graph that one, then finding the inverse of this would be really quick and really easy because the inverse would be the log base 3 of x. So if I plugged in -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 into this, which is pretty quick in the calculator, that would give me 1 over 9, 1/3, 1, 3, and 9. My inverse would be just taking the x's and the y's and switching them. So 1/9, -2, 1/3, -1, 1, 0, 3, 1, and 9, 2. It would be a whole lot harder for me to find these values to plug into this or into this one with the +2. And we'll talk about the +2 in just a second. So this is easier to plug into, and then I can just switch to find my inverse. And remember, and I'm going to do this kind of quickly, I'm not going to draw real detailed points on this. Remember, exponential growth functions like that 3 to the x are going to be functions that look like this. So the logarithm should be flipped over this side, which means the graph will go like this. And if you were to plot these points, that's what this graph would look like. A logarithmic function actually has an asymptote that is vertical. And it helps if you can spell asymptote correctly. It actually has an asymptote that is vertical on the y-axis because the inverse thing, remember we talked about switches and flips this over to here. So this would be the log base 3 of x if this one was 3 to the x. If we took our values and switched them like we talked about. So then what in the world does this +2 do? Well, the exact same thing that it does when we looked at graphing an exponential function that looks like this. Remember the +3 here? We took the opposite of this, and it takes it and it moves it left 3 spaces. So guess what? This one would take log base 3 and move it left 2 spaces. So all you'd have to do is take this graph right here, move it left 2 spaces, and you would have a graph that actually has a vertical asymptote at -2 because it used to be on the y-axis. And then this graph would come right through here and come up like this.